Hey guys, I'm Dan.
I'm Andrew.
Mike.
And today we're taking a look at Expeditions from Stonemaier Games, also known as a sequel to Scythe. We were lent this copy by friend of the show, Ben.
Thank you,
know
Ben.
who you are.
Thanks, Ben.
He actually taught us how to play the game, and then we've played it again since, and we wanted to sit down and talk about it.
And he beat us, so bad teacher award
goes
to Ben.
We'll get into
He
the
crushed us.
Yeah, we'll get into
But
that for sure.
Yeah, the experience helps.
Expeditions is a Stonemaier game, so it's 1 to 5 players.
Yeah.
That's how that works.
Always.
It says 60-90 minutes, player count, and everything is going to play into that, but that's accurate enough, I think. I'd be okay saying that to people. But yeah, so we're on our reviews, we have kind of multiple chapters we'll go through. First, we'll do a basic breakdown of gameplay, then we'll have kind of an open discussion on our thoughts, then we'll score the game out of 10. The description will have all of this split up, so if you skip to certain sections, it is easier for you. Everything will be labeled. But first, let's jump to Mike for a brief how to play.
Yeah, so Expeditions is a tile exploration, tableau building, engine building game with an end game trigger very similar to Scythe. Once one player puts 4 stars out, they trigger the end of the game and you play another round, much like Scythe, and it's 6 stars. So it's an action selection game. You start with all 3 of your actions available to you. Move, play, and gather are your primary actions.
As you can see up here on our little example board, you've got move, play, and gather.
Yep, so you can move up to 3 spots, starting with one of the first 3 tiles at the bottom of the play area here. So you can go 1, 2, 3, for example. Then you could play a card. The cards you start with, everybody starts with 2 completely different, a character card and a companion card. Those are very different. And everybody starts with a different board here, what used to be your...
It's called a mech board
Your
now,
mech
yeah.
board, yep. So those can give you different variable player powers, but you'll move, and then you can play a card. So if you play a card, you move from the left side to the right side of your player board. When you do that, you'll gain the resource on the top left. That's either power or guile, which are marked on the left side of your mech board. Then you can gather. Gather is basically taking the action that's available to you on the hex. There's a whole bunch of them here, and I'm not going to go through all of them, but you've got to get workers. So you've got different color workers. Workers are used to activate the cards that you play. I played this just for its core value, but if I had a red worker, then I get an additional benefit out of this card. So that's why I want workers. I can draw cards from the face-up display. As you can see, cards are actually placed in between hexes here, and you have to go to these hexes that have these diagonal yellow cards to draft a face-up card and put it in your available area over here.
It's kind of like a shop, but it's integrated into the map.
Yeah, because there's some spots that will actually allow you to do that. Like this one, for example, allows you to activate the ability of an adjacent card, which is pretty cool.
Yeah. Which is unfortunate because that specific tile was placed
way
in an
up here.
area that only gives you access to 1 card.
Yeah.
But a modular board, I'm not complaining.
Obviously, it would have been much more effective if it was here, because now I got 3 cards I could have chosen to activate. But there's tons of different abilities here. I can get more map exploration tokens, which you'll get just by exploring, because we've already flipped over all the tiles because we just finished this game. Normally, only the bottom 2 areas here are flipped over. Everything from here up is upside down. And then when you get into a hex that has not been explored, you'll flip the tile, you'll take the map, as they call them in this game, and not exploration tiles, and then you find out what's on that hex. If it has... it'll have an ability on it. So if you chose gather, you could now take the gather ability off of that tile. Like I said, it's going to have things like getting cards, resetting the entire market, which is pretty cool. It's got options to give you coins, which at the end of the game, much like Scythe, most coins wins. And so gathering coins will definitely help you towards the end of the game. You've also got options to where you can draw cards from the top of the deck. You can rescue cards. So say you played a card into your discard area over here, and you want that card back. Well, you can take one of these little plus symbol actions and gain that card back. And now you can play it again later because it's a timing thing. You may have all of your cards over here. You're like, shoot, I'm running out of stuff to do. I better refresh. And when you refresh, you're going to take that little cube and move it over to the refresh area. You're basically passing your turn. You don't really get to do anything, but all those cards are now available. They're going to move back over here, which means you can use play actions to play them again. The other thing that's similar to Scythe in this action selection here is that this little cube moves up. And normally I can only do 2 of these actions. So I could move and gather, or I could gather from the space I'm on, then move. But that means on my next turn, I can't do the same thing. I have to move this cube, meaning if I have blocked out play, I would have to move then play, or I'd have to play then gather.
Whatever you're blocking out is what you're not doing.
Right.
You're doing whatever you see, and you have to move your cube every time.
It's only after you refresh that you have access to all 3 of those actions, or during the first round of the game. Every other turn, you're only getting to choose 2 of these available actions, and you can't block out the same one in consecutive turns.
Yeah.
So that makes it kind of interesting. The other main thing that kind of pushes your points and your in-game, because we're not going to explain every rule, is the vanquishing. So these are these tiles here. So once you explore and you discover one of these tiles that has kind of these squares around it with the dots, you're going to draw tiles out of the vanquish bag, and you're going to draw these until the number of the tiles equals or exceeds the number on the tile. This says 8+. So as you can see, we drew a 3, then we drew a 4. Well, that's not enough. Crap, here comes a 5. Okay. What vanquishing does is your companion gives you that ability, and you have to place a worker on them. Vanquish allows you to take the power and the guile that you've been building up on your mech board and spend it to remove these tokens off of the board. Each of these tokens is worth 2 points at the end of the game. Plus, you get the ability that's underneath it immediately, and you can gather that ability moving forward in the game without having to vanquish those tiles again. They're gone. This one is how you play stars. So you can't just satisfy one of the in-game conditions here and automatically place a star. That's not how it works in expeditions. You have to go to one of these areas and boast. So your star locations, for example, here says, I've got 8 cards in play, not cards I fulfilled as quests or that I have talked. These are cards available to me. If I go here and I gather at this location, I can boast about the 8 cards that I've collected. Now I can place my star on the board. So there's this interesting kind of timing that happens. You can see other people may have already met the requirements, but they're not going to get to place their star until they get to one of those boast locations. And that's where some of the player interaction comes in that we'll talk about. But ultimately, boasting is your only way to get those stars out. Real quickly, I think it's worth talking about all the stars you can place, and then I'm pretty much done with our overview here. So completing 4 quests, okay? So
we didn't even get to quests.
Yeah, we didn't even get to quests. Quests are one of the cards you can pick up, of course, okay? To complete this quest, it has the number 4 on it. To complete it, I have to pay the resources on the card, which is going to be a combination of either power and guile, and I have to be on the numbered hex. It says number 4. So I've got to be here to even complete this quest. Now I pay that stuff that gets tucked up here, and it is one of the engines you can build. Every time you complete quests, you'll get that core value of all the other cards of quests that you've completed. That's power or guile. Those are your core values. The other thing you can do is you can upgrade. You can take cards that have these little gears on them. They are upgraded actions, and they go over here to the right. What's neat about upgraded cards is you don't need a worker to get the action out of the bottom of the card. It's an automatic action you can do on your turn now. Okay, so those are really neat. You can build a whole bunch of those. If you get 4 of those, there's a star. You can also meld. Meld is taking the cards that are called meteor cards. I have one here. This is another engine that you can build. it gets tucked sideways, and they also have engine building properties. Every time you meld a card, you get to chain react all of these that have active abilities. Yeah. So that's another star that you can get by having 4 cars melded. There is a Vanquish spot that Andrew got. It's a 20. If you max out your power, max out your guile at 10 each, you can go to this area.
Right in the middle. Right in the middle. Dead middle.
Right
there we go.
there.
Tarkovsky's
you can go up
lair.
there and vanquish that. And there's only one person that can get that one. So as soon as somebody gets that one, stop chasing it. They've collected the star for it. Yep. You cannot. But you can get a star by having 7 of these Vanquish tokens.
Yep.
And you can also get a star for having either 7 available workers or 5 of the map tiles, a.k.a. exploration tokens. You can get 1 star from both of those, not both. So once somebody gets 4 stars, there you go. Bam, play another round, game ends. So again, not a totally comprehensive overview, but this should give you a pretty good idea of how to play. Anything you guys want to add?
It's a lot, man. Your first game, it's just getting your brain used to moving things around. Like, you're not gonna get it the first, at least coming from Scythe, where there are all of these symbols that I've seen before and more. It takes a minute to transition into expeditions, right? Like, you were talking about quests, Mike, but the quests is the same thing as what's the popularity in Scythe. And you know, it's hard seeing this game as a Scythe sequel, and you just want to think it's going to be Scythe, so you're forcing Scythe into this game. Forcing Scythe, did I say that? So it takes a minute to get your feet wet. Like, that was a lot of stuff. This game has a lot of intricacies. This was not a full rules teach, like Mike said, even though Mike does great how to plays. But yeah, I mean, it takes a minute. It takes a minute for your brain to adjust.
Yeah, this is not how I'd explain it to teach the game. It's just kind of a general overview.
A rundown.
Yeah.
Hey-o.
Couple things I wanted to add to that real fast. Sorry, Dan. I know. One, we did borrow this game, and it's the Ironclad edition.
Correct.
So that does mean it has metal mechs.
That is all, though.
Yeah, in the regular edition, it's plastic miniatures, which that's fine. It's still a mech miniature. These are massive, though.
Yeah.
These are huge mech miniatures, and they're metal. So there's that.
Which may not be the best purchase,
we'll
get to later.
We'll get into that.
Spoiler.
And the other thing you were talking about, forcing Scythe into this game. As a huge fan of Scythe, I found myself trying to do that when I first started playing this game.
Yeah.
Like seeing icons and thinking they were one thing, and then finding out they were something totally different.
Yep.
And you know, kind of learning that. I don't think the game is hard to learn. I understood what I could do on my turn fairly quickly. It's getting the synergies and the strategies, getting your head wrapped around those things that takes a game. Maybe even 3, because I thought I had it down and I played terribly.
Yeah.
So.
Yep.
Well, on that note, let's jump into the official start of our opening thoughts. And by opening thoughts, Mike, I of course mean open discussion and final thoughts, and I decided to just totally on purpose put those 2 words together. Did you have anything you wanted to add on to that sentence you were saying? This is just kind of an open discussion. So.
Yeah. So again, I've played Scythe 25 times. I've played with every expansion. I've played all the way through Rise of Fenris.
Good point.
I love that campaign, and I'm not a big campaign person, but I've played all the way through it. I'd play it again. Scythe is one of my favorite games of all time. So going into this, knowing who published it, knowing who designed it, knowing that it is a sequel to Scythe, it's really not. It's in the same world. It's got that beautiful Jacob Brzezowski art that I love. This is some of my favorite world art in any game. I love what Jacob has put together and how Jamie was able to build a game and a world out of art. But to call it a sequel, it's really only in the same world, and that's really where the similarities stop. Other than it's got mechs.
I completely disagree.
And some of the
Dan,
icons.
what do you think?
I'm interested in seeing where you go from there. So I'm not like this is really interesting on how we're going to talk about this.
Yeah.
But
I'm ready to fight.
I think Scythe is a good game. I'm not nearly in it as much as that. I've probably played Scythe like
Do you own the digital
8
game?
times. I do.
Okay.
And I have
We
played
should all
that
play.
a couple times.
That'd be fun. I own it. You own it, Mike?
No, but I
Okay.
can.
We'll go
It's
home
very
and buy it.
Say the
affordable.
word. Yeah.
Say the word.
But so I don't come from like a strong Scythe background, and I found it very easy to separate from Scythe mentally. Like, yeah, the quest icon is the exact same as the popularity icon, but that's as close as it comes. Like, it's just an icon in the game, and I don't care. That doesn't mean anything to me. I can see why he used the same icon. First of all, he uses the same icons a lot. It's not just like this and Scythe have the same icons. He tends to like using certain things in his games, and you'll see them cross over quite a bit. But I didn't find that difficult. And also, technically, the hearts do the same job as popularity in this, right? To where depending on how many hearts you have, it adds the multiplier to your stars.
Multiplier.
I know. I know.
Multipliers.
Multipass. But so there are some crossovers and stuff like that. As far as an engine building goes, I actually think this game is really good. I think that the engine building options here are awesome. I love
It's unconventional too. The engine building is
also, while in the middle
unconventional.
of the sentence, I'm getting rid of this gigantic box because
It's
it's
big.
literally
It's
covering
big.
half the
It's big.
camera
It's
over here.
big.
It's ridiculous. We'll talk about that soon.
Makes me happy.
But I love I love all the different options that are going into here with your questing thematically going to locations and turning certain things in to tuck the quest under there. And every time you tuck a quest, you gain the thing of every quest you've done. So first you get 1, then 2, then 3, right? So it feels really good. The meteors are a lot of things of like gain 1 coin for every worker you have available, gain 1 coin for every purple quest you've completed, just like weird stuff like that. But then the first time you play a meteor, it activates. The second time you play a meteor, both meteors activate. And so you're getting this insane engine ramp going on. The tech cards, which is what I really focused the second game, giving you nonstop passive abilities now for the rest of the game, and then also they're worth points that from I've seen is like 2 to 4, but I don't know if that's actually the limit. But then they're worth points at the end of the game that can really stack up. I mean, those tech cards can become a fourth of your points, which is one of the 4 main things you're doing. So I guess that kind of makes sense. But moving around the board is totally fine. 1 through 3 movement feels fine. If it was more or less, it can't be less. It's up to 3. If it was more, maybe too much movement involved, I think that 1 through 3 is a fair number.
My guy is the one asymmetric that lets you go just over 1 spot. The dog lets,
imagine
lets
if
you
you
move once.
Imagine if you have the mech that let you move 4.
Yeah,
You'd be moving 5 with that combo, which is.
But you don't. But
definitely,
you don't get the dog with the other mech. Like that's. Or wait, there's a board?
There's a board.
Okay. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah,
Never mind.
Whose
My
only
mistake.
ability is you get to move up to 4 or whatever. So I really like the idea of this semi-modular board. I'm hoping that with expansions you can get different shapes and stuff out of the board in the future, different layouts. I hope that's a thing they're working on because this is cool. I can see it getting old as we go on. But I really like the modular board layers with, south, central, and north. And then you have cards in between the hexes, and like hexes will correlate to cards and stuff. Some words pick up any card, but some words pick up adjacent cards. Some are activate adjacent cards. All that stuff is a cool system going on. We did instantly house rule a thing to where if there's ever 5 of the same type of card out, we insta wipe the board. That's kind of stuff. It's just annoying. Now, there are multiple spots on the board to wipe, and you wipe whatever you want, which is really cool. Yeah, that broom icon that Mike just pointed at. So something that's really cool, this jumps me into my next thing, is let's say that the max quests you can get in the game is 4, right? Let's say I have all 4 quests completed. I've gotten that star. I'm done with quests for the rest of the game. I can just go to sweep locations now and just keep sweeping all the quests because they don't mean anything to me anymore, right? But I'm stopping other people from getting quests, potentially. You don't know what's going to come out. But I find that player interaction a little interesting. This, like, once you're done with a goal, you can start just hate drafting kind of like everyone else's.
And it's easy to hate draft in this game. Like, when we played our first game with Ben, thank you, Ben, it was easy to look at his board. We knew he had to complete a quest, and we could just look at his board and say, like, oh, you need quest number 19. So we were all looking at the 19 hex, and we're like, all right, We just have to live there and prevent. Now, he was just kicking our butts, but like
Right.
if it were a more competitive game, I could totally see player politics
Yeah.
coming in and saying like, we got to stop him. I'm going to keep racking up points over here, and we need to block him because he's about to end the game. And
I
Yeah.
don't like that. Like
love
the
it.
being able to completely shut someone down.
but,
I don't like.
But there were loads of other things he could have
it's
done.
super situational.
Yep.
That's what I was going to say. I don't like when it happens. But just get a second quest and we can no longer do that.
Exactly.
Right? Or just work on your tech cards and we can no longer do that.
Yeah.
You know,
It's
so
like,
it's
oh,
not
he
like
backed off, and then once you lay off, he could go right back to 19
exactly.
and then say, oh yeah, gotcha.
So like the camping is the biggest issue with the game as far as the board is concerned. People can go to a location and they can sit there for 2 turns if they take an action and then rest or whatever, right? Before you can go there. And then technically if that person moves off and someone else is before you turn order, they can move there and you can kind of be shut out of location, which a quest needs a specific location. But you're only in that situation if the only thing you have your engine set up to do is complete this one quest I have. In which case, you don't deserve, to move forward in the game, right? If your engine is that poorly built, I don't think the game should have something built in to congratulate you. Like, oh, well, just here's an easy way to get around that, right? I don't like when engine building games are too simple. You should be rewarded for getting your engine going, which is a double-edged sword. You don't want it to be pure luck, which there is some issues in this game with certain things happening that hurt or help someone's engine too much. But overall, I want someone to be like, oh man, I built this really open engine, so there's 3 things I can do on my turn. I'm being rewarded by this game, which is partly why I don't like it as much in the lower player counts just after our few plays. In a lower player count, it speeds the game up, of course, and that's very nice. But it also means that there's almost no player interaction. Like, I can't imagine playing this at 2 players where it's just like, you could just play in different rooms over Discord and just see whose engine winds up being better. Like, there's no player interaction in the low player count game. So if someone's engine is just running away with it, there's nothing you can do about that. And if your engine is like kind of hurting and you kind of want to like twist someone else to like manipulate your engine to be better, well, you can't, like to where other engine games you can. And so in a higher player count game where it does kind of drag, time between turns is a little longer, at least there's like slightly more play. I wish there was more player interaction, and that I think is just multiplied on top in a like exponentially worse in a lower player count game. It's just we're all playing a solo game in a lower player count game, and I don't like when games feel that way, I guess is all I'm trying to say there. But there's a lot of positive and negatives that I'm going to keep on talking about. But how about Andrew talks for a little bit?
I mean, thanks, Dan.
Yeah.
That was a passionate speech.
Yeah.
I had a great time.
Okay, back to me.
Yeah. What can I say? Like, okay, I think we have different ideas of what a Scythe sequel in the Scythe world means, but this feels like the Scythe world. No, it doesn't. No, it's not Scythe 2.0. Everybody's saying that. I'm not just hopping on the bandwagon, but it's a Scythe sequel in the Scythe universe, and so many things about it feel like Scythe. Like, for example, the quests. The quests give you very little, but Stonemaier Games has made it so that the more you invest into those quests, you get that rocketing multiplier of points, of points. I like how there's still competition, but you're not fighting each other in this game. You're fighting these crummy little tile things. I mean, that's fine.
Yeah.
It doesn't really look intimidating like these mechs do. But in the same breath, like, it doesn't need to, like they've done a good enough job that I get the point of what they're trying to do with these 2 different, I guess you could say, power resources. Like, I get the idea of the dual resource, and it feels very Scythe-y. I love you cover up 1. I don't like refreshing, but then getting that triple move, like, people say how good it feels good, but man, refreshing on a 5-player game. I agree. A 5-player game is the way to fill the board. It's the way to play the game. But like, man, you're just waiting, And if you're not playing with 4 other people that know what they're doing, like this can turn into a grinder. You think like, oh, expeditions, 45-minute game or something like that. Like, oh, it's a shorter version of Scythe. It's a boiled down, refined version of Scythe for people who didn't necessarily like Scythe. Like maybe this will scratch the itch for people who tried it and didn't like it. I think this is a main event game, and I want to say, Stonemaier Games, I think honestly you dropped the ball the last few games. I'm not gonna lie, except for Libertalia, but that wasn't really your game anyway. But you did good on it. But like the last few, Pendulum didn't feel too hot. I think you need to work on that a little bit. Red Rising was, I mean, you've heard your criticisms for Red Rising. This is the upswing, and I think this is the first step in saying like, hey, Stonemaier Games still makes great games, and don't forget that. Just because there have been a few less favorable opinions over the last few games. I know there was COVID, and then there was like Rolling Realms to kind of buy time a little bit just due to constraints there. But this was a great game, and I feel like this is a great complementary sequel to Scythe. With that said, these metal pieces here, they're cool, man, right? And people who bought the Ironclad edition, they know what we're gonna say. Like these metal or these rubber or silicone little base holders to indicate what color you are, they are probably
awful.
They fall off constantly.
They fall off and they lip right here. Honestly, I would consider, like when you played football or something, you'd like put your mouth guard in like hot water. Right. I almost want to like put this in hot water and then just like air dry it or blow dry it so it shrinks. But wow, that. So anyway, what I was saying earlier is like if you're a super collector, I would wait until somebody comes out with something better than this. 3D printer people, this is your shot right here. Because if you play without this thing on it and you start playing enough times, you're going to start scraping these hexes and you're going to diminish the quality. So I would recommend, like, if you like Scythe and you can, like, get away from the fact that this is not Scythe, just buy the base version, because the only difference between the Ironclad version and this version is the metal mechs, and they feel good. They feel really good.
They're amazing.
They're amazing. Don't get me wrong, but it's this little oversight right here. It's darn it. Like damn, that sucks. The pieces are amazing, but just get the base edition if you're a super collector. Sure, go with the Ironclad edition and 3D print yourself some little capsules on the bottom. I realize I'm running into Dan time now, but I had a great time playing it. My first game was terrible. I did so bad. All of my combos were like I would reveal a tile and it wouldn't help me at all. And I didn't have a good time the first game, but I didn't blame Expeditions. I blamed myself for not being comfortable with how the board was set up and the pieces, and I didn't have a strategy down yet. But once I started playing with different boards and different characters, I started to see the game for what it was, and for that I really appreciate Expeditions.
So couple disagreements I have to some of your points, but before
final scoring.
But before I do that, some component comments.
Yep.
I love how big these hexes are.
Yes.
I think that is great. I love big old hexes, especially when it's full of Jacob's art. Okay?
Yes.
But here's where my disagreements come in. If we took away Jacob's art, the only way this game would feel like Scythe to me is the stars in the in-game system. That's it. That's the only gameplay similarity I find.
What about
other
the cubes?
I'm moving around.
The cubes?
It's
The
like the
action
opposite,
selection is slightly similar, but it's not enough to make it feel like Scythe to me. So I've got an in-game trigger, and I've got how I'm blocked from what I can do the next turn. That's not enough for me. But also, when you say this is a sequel to one of the highest rated games of all time, I think you have to expect these comparisons, even if you come out and say, this is not the same game, it's not even close, it's just in the world, but it says it's a sequel on the box.
I'm putting you on the
Therefore, that's why I have to make the comparisons to one of my favorite games of all time.
Sure. And I'm going to put you on the spot, and I don't know if like this, if you don't have an example, that's okay, because there's not a lot of sequel games. But are there any games that have claimed sequelhood, or even not even sequelhood, but maybe like the North Seas games,
sure.
like where it feels like it? I mean, I even hate to say this because we just reviewed it, but like Farshore kind of feels like a sequel because it's like the same exact game.
I'll give you a few examples.
It's a great game.
Every game in the West Kingdom series feels similar, and partly because it uses the exact same iconography and art for every single game.
You can merge all the games together,
but
right?
They share similar mechanics. They even borrow some of the expansions. The other one is Rising Sun was a spiritual successor to Blood Rage. You could see that. Ankh was a spiritual successor to the first two. You can see that. You can see the influences.
Yeah.
I can see influence, but not enough for me personally to say this is a successor.
I guess I'd be interested in asking what a sequel means to Jamie.
Yeah,
Right.
I know.
Yeah.
So again, these are my own personal opinions. I also don't think it's a main event game, and that's the unfortunate part for me. If everybody's like, "Hey, this is the game we're going to play tonight," I'm be like, "All right, great. When we're done, let's pack it up. Let's play something else."
Interesting.
I like it. I don't personally think it's great, and we'll talk more about that when it comes to my score. I think it's a good game. It's one I'd recommend. You should check it out. I'm not sure it's one I want to go put in my collection, though. So that's where I'm at.
I don't know why I was surprised by this, but one thing that I want to add, everyone knows Scythe, right? Oh, it's a really good game, but it has problems that have been errated. You know, like don't play this faction with this board because it's clearly broken.
The modular board, they came out with actual
Right.
content to errata it.
Right. And I'm waiting for this game to get the same thing, is what I'm saying. This is a good game that has some real issues to me with balancing. And part of it is because you are randomly given a board, and then you're randomly given your characters, and then cards randomly come out, and then tiles are randomly next to each other, you know? So
Very Scythe-like,
Exactly.
Mike.
and that's what I'm saying is, so it has a lot of the same problems that Scythe had on release to me, which is a little unfortunate because, you know, you've had this many years to be like, hey, remember those mistakes we made? Let's not make them again. But like, and with this many cards and this many actions and this many player power stuff, it's very, very difficult to balance on release. I get it. It's not my job to look at that stuff and everything, so I don't know where I even start to talk about it. But there are some things that when they line up, you're just like, oh, cool, I have no idea how I'm going to stand a chance against that combo. You know, like, and that is a problem. I know that people are instantly going to ask for examples and stuff. If you own the game, look through your cards, you'll see them. We can mention some stuff if we can think of it, but one thing that I saw, and I meant to go through every single card before doing this review, and I did not get a chance to do it, but I've only seen one or maybe two cards in the game so far from the times we've played, and we've seen quite a few of the cards that just have an action of boast. And I don't know if you guys remember from the How to Play, but boasting is how you put a star out, which is 1/4 of ending the game,
Very
and adds you exponential victory points by having them with your quests and everything, right? So someone can just get a card that just says, okay, I put a worker on it and I boast and I put the thing over here and then I rest and then I go over here and I play and I put a worker on it and I boast and then I rest and then. Yes, that has to be further into the game to where you have to have built up 4 quests and 4 melds and all these things, right? You have to have those done. But having an action where you don't care where you are on the board, you just boast, is so powerful in a game like that.
Just to further your example, the times in this game when you can boast on the tiles themselves, you have to defeat an 8+. Yeah, you have to uncover them.
Yeah.
So if you have a card that can boast, you have achieved in an ability in your tableau, something that takes you to get to the top, and you have to fight some very high power monster. So I hate to come out with like get this card when you see it, but it is the boast card.
100%.
I'll further the boast point. Let's say you're over here. You move 1, 2, 3. That's a turn. Okay. You move 1, 2, but you may not have your gather available. You can't move 3 times in a row. You can't gather 3 times in a row, and you can't play 3 times in a row. So if you don't have yourself set up to move twice and then gather, and you're way over there, you're not going to be able to boast and get any points from that quest.
And
that you
even
did.
in this example, that's without it being like this.
Right, and that's
You know?
without having to vanquish first.
Yeah.
So it's like, you try to set that up, but you can potentially save 3 actions with a boast card.
Yeah. I'm just saying that
3 turns.
I'm just saying I think it's too powerful for how many I've seen. I've only seen 1 or 2 cards with it. I think I've seen 2 cards with it on it. If it was on, a bunch of the cards and you knew that multiple people were going to get it, that's not as bad, But I have not seen, in every game I've played, I've seen 1 person get a card that said boast. And I've also seen one other thing happen in every game that we've played, which is this guy has won the game. And that
The ship's
ability is that you can turn in map tokens for resources 1-to-1 infinitely. Now, there's a limited number of map tokens in the game that you can easily get, and then you can get. So when the second time I played, I had a card that every time I put a work on, I gained a map token. If this character gets the card that lets you get a map token just by putting in a worker on it, you have this insane engine that you can just build up and then spend them all for all your resources. Then build up and then spend them all for your resources. And I've checked. Jamie has talked about it on both rules facts questions because people are asking because it's insanely powerful. Jamie has answered on Board Game Geek and on his Stonemeyer website, yes, you can do it infinitely because it does not mention once per turn. That clearly needs to be like a 1 per turn thing to me. Like that ability is just, okay, I gain 7 map tokens, I turn it in, I insta get that 20 star. No one even stands a chance to get that before me if you explore
Now
a
that
lot.
I've done that and won the game, I will give you permission to request a rule change because it felt great doing it, and now I will relinquish the power.
Right. Oh, but now I want to do it.
It was amazing.
It's just insane that someone can just get their guile and power up to like 4 each, maybe 5 each, which isn't that difficult. Just do some exploring at the start of the game, which no one can stop you. Again, in a lower player count game, it's much easier to get explore tokens than because you just move. There's less people to take them from you. And then you just get 5 of those built up. I think you had 8 or 9 when you did it.
7 and 6. Yeah.
7 and 6.
So I dumped
And then-
7 to.
Yeah, so he dumped 7, boom, instigate, boom, star that no one else was even close to being able to get. That ability is too powerful to be infinite. You're taking this token, which is worth nothing unless you have a specific thing talking about it, and you're saying this is now worth any resource you want infinitely. Like, that is an insane ability, man.
Okay, so to counter here,
Yep, waiting.
because we did tie.
Yes.
Did tie. These aren't worth anything at the end of the game. So here's some suggestions instead of just hearing us complain.
Of course.
Stonemeyer games, even though I know you don't watch reviews anyway. Good for you. Make for every 2 that you have, 1 point.
Sure.
Or it's something to consider. This is the end. This is my board at the end of the game. I don't have any. I didn't vanquish 1 single time.
Yep.
And every time you vanquish, you get 2 points. So
You technically vanquished once, but yeah.
I vanquished once, and I vanquished the big guy, which
Exactly.
gave me a victory point. But I didn't do any of the other things that you guys were slowly accumulating points over the game doing. I just kind of rushed that because I saw the innate ability that I had. And I think we're forgetting here that this came down to a tiebreaker condition, and I beat you by 1 tiebreaker condition and 1 coin. I beat you by 1 coin. So even though I rushed that, I beat you by the skin of my teeth.
And while I'm aware of that, what I'm saying is I saw what you were doing and had to play my butt off for the rest of the game and take actions I did not want to take to throw cards under my thing just because they were worth points.
Sure.
I didn't activate any of their abilities. I was just like, this card's worth 4 points. This card's worth 3 points, and I wasn't having.
You weren't
fun.
playing. Yeah.
I was just like, this is my only chance, and I just tucked as many cards as I could. But yes, it's not like you blew us away by taking that combo. It's just that if you get that combo, and then on top of that, you had the card that gave you a free move. He would move, get an explore token, free move, get an explore token. Just crazy combos in this game. That's all I'm saying. There's going to be broken things that we haven't mentioned because it's just come out. There's going to be things that we have mentioned that you don't think are broken. That's absolutely fine. That's what reviews are all about. That's what us talking is all about back and forth. Leave it in the comments what you guys think of all these things we're talking about. I'm just saying I am expecting erratas. That's all I'm saying with certain cards that are clearly too good to be with certain mechs and stuff like that. Sure. But other than that, I think I covered most things I wanted to talk about. I love when cards let you tuck things. I wish the player board helped that out a little bit better. It's not awful, but I wish it was a little bit better at sliding under easily. Like they give you these little things that go on the bottom of your boards to lift them up slightly. I think it's maybe not enough. It's close. Good job for trying.
Sleeve your cards.
Sure.
This is a oh my gosh. Sleeve this game. Sleeve it. Sleeve it, dude. Do you want an example? Your cards are not in your hand. Your cards are always on the table. So you're always like whenever you refresh, you do that refresh action. Goodbye, little meeple man. When you're done, you are picking up these cards off of the table, and if you have a friend that picks them up like this, like you've got the camera right here, and if they're picking it up like this way, like that, you're gonna get. Give me an example. Where are you?
Sure. Oh, there's a bunch of them.
There's a bunch of them right here.
Yeah, they've already done it.
Look at this.
Yeah. Hold on. Yeah, so you got to sleeve them, or you play on a playmat.
Definitely play on a playmat too.
Or a board game table,
yeah,
where you're not picking at the card.
Holy word. And sleeve them maybe even upside down. So when you're picking them up like that, you're picking up the bottom of the sleeve.
Sure.
Something. Just sleeve them.
I don't know. I'm not a sleever. I got a table, though.
Yeah, you should probably double sleeve these cards.
Double sleeve. Because I'm a really big Expedition fan. I'm a very big Expeditions fan. I double sleeve these.
Okay. Anyone have anything else before we go into our
scoring?
Let's score it.
So, guys, we're going to jump into our final rating. But first, here's a little ad about our Patreon.
Hi, guys. This is Bob from the Board Game Rundown. We started our own Patreon, and for just $5 a month, you can help keep our shelves stocked full of board games for you guys to watch us play and review and preview for you. So please, go to our Patreon page, sign up, help whatever you can, and we hope to see you more. Thank you.
Michael Rice. How do we score?
Pretty simple. We score it from 1 to 10. Each of us will do so. We'll add them up and average them together, and then you get one Board Game Rundown aggregate score. If you like Andrew or Dan or my opinions better, you can hear our individual scores, but we like to average them together, and that's what we put on Discord and BGG.
Thanks, Mike. You're awesome. Did you just give this game a 0? Is that what you were saying?
Wow. I said 1 to 10,
first
Andrew.
for Board Game Rundown.
That's not even legal.
Okay, so I'll go first. I think Andrew should probably go last. I want to see what this says. So
okay,
I'll go first. And I like the game overall. I want to see some of these errata thingies, see what it does to the game. But overall, I enjoyed it. I think it's a cool engine building game. For now, I'm falling on a 7. I wish it could be higher. I don't know. There's just something going on here that's like, it's fun, but and I don't know what to add there. I don't know, but Mike, what are you thinking?
You know, it's funny how sometimes we can have very different thoughts in our final thoughts section and then fall on the same score, because my summary is I think it's a fairly fun game, but it's just kind of and that's why I come at a 7. And a 7 for me means I recommend it. You should check it out.
Yep.
But I'm not going to go track it down and put it in my collection. I'll keep playing it, though, and maybe the score goes up, but I'm a 7.
I'm going to give this game an 8, so I'm going to add that score right there.
Smart move.
And I say that because this is, like I said, this is the upswing for Stonemaier. So I'm giving this kind of like a big picture kind of score. I'm encouraged by this game, and regardless of what you think about this game, you have either fans of the game like me, and you guys will play it. There are going to be people who, I know it's not the intention, but when you call a game a sequel to one of the best games ever made, you kind of turn it into a cash cow, right? Oh, it's a Scythe sequel.
Or a measuring stick.
Or measuring stick, but at the end of the day, Stonemaier Games is getting more money to fund all of the expansion potential that this game has, and there are things that I want to see come out of it that make it an 8.5 for me, that make it a 9 for me. And I think there are small things you can do before releasing an expansion, such as, I think a great idea is changing the shape of the map. Mm-hmm. Come out with ideas that make it a smaller game. There are things you can do here that I haven't thought of, and I love changing rules up. But there are things you can do that can mess with this map, and you can make this a new game. Now, I would like to play this 10 times before I even consider changing the map around.
Right.
But I had a great time, and I'm excited to see the feedback that Stonemaier Games receives to create an even better experience for Expeditions. While the Ironclad Edition isn't a game that I would go out and purchase, I will buy the base game. That's for sure. And if Gen Con comes around, and there are going to be people who are disappointed in their Ironclad purchase, and I will scoop that version up just to have it. And if they knock $20 off, this is a beautiful game. We have to remember that the quality of this game is worth the money. And it's a gorgeous game. Bring back, who's the illustrator?
Jacob Rosalski.
Fantastic game. I love the modular board. I love everything about that. So, that's why I'm falling on an 8 with high hopes for the future. This is an example of Orleans. The base game was there. It was it. But the expansions made that game one of my favorite games of all time. So I have high hopes for Expeditions to really knock my socks off in the future.
Okay. And that gives us what, Andrew, for our final rating?
A 7.333333, repeating 3 eternally, of course.
So Expeditions gets a 7.3 for Board Game Rundown for now. I think that's a pretty fair score where I sit on it mentally. I want to see more from this game, but I am happy with what I get. I would recommend the game, but I don't love the game. It's like sitting right around. I think that's...
I'm excited to take it out again.
Yeah, no, I want to play it again. I really do. But also that's because I just want to test out all the different things it's offering,
Can I be the ship again?
No.
Okay.
No. I want to be the ship. I keep losing.
But guys, thank you so much for watching. Let us know in the comments below anything that you want to say about this game or certain things that we covered in this video. But from the Board Game Rundown, I've been Dan.
I'm still Andrew.
Mike.
And this was Expeditions by Stonemaier. The box is gone. Thank you so much for watching. We'll see you guys
Good
next
job,
time.
Stonemaier. A 7.3333, repeating 3 eating 3 eating 3 eating 3 eating 3